I was going to say that the typical classic father wounds for men tend to be that dad wasn't there for you. You needed his attention, you needed his approval, you needed his involvement, and he was busy working, or he was traveling, or for whatever reason, he wasn't there for you. And so in a very gut level, you didn't feel important to him.
And with a mother wound, I think it very often is that mom was trying to shape you up. You know, nothing was ever good enough, you know, or there was criticism. And it may have been her goodness. She really just cared so much, but it ended up really making you feel small and inadequate and not worthy of love. And that blocks you from love.
Right. And for women, too, with their dads, often the dads didn't tell their girls, the daughters, that they were loved, and didn't communicate love in a way that they really needed to hear it.
Or didn't affirm their femininity. Sometimes dads are really frightened to do that, you know, and it's really the opposite that happens. There, you know, when you affirm someone's femininity and they own it, they can manifest it in appropriate, healthy, celibate, wholesome ways. If you don't affirm it, then they need to prove it, you know, and go over the top, you know, with promiscuity or being very aggressive sexually, you know. So affirmation, you know, people think that criticism shapes people up, but actually affirmation brings out the best. Because if you tell me I'm wonderful, then I want to be wonderful for you, right? If you see something good in me, I'm going to show you that all the time. And so it turns out being much healthier. But our generations past didn't always understand that. And so, you know, they were victims of their own trainings. Mom and dad are not on trial here. It's not, you know, it's not about them wanting to hurt their kids in any way. You know, or, you know, we're parents. We want the best for our kids too, but nobody's perfect, right? So everybody has to get free of some of these outside injuries. And the thing that's interesting to me is that it's kind of counterintuitive, is what happens with, you know, say somebody does something to Ronnie that was unkind or wrong or didn't treat him the way he deserves to be treated, or perhaps he had a parent or a sibling, you know, that hurt him badly or, you know, mistreated him. The natural tendency is to commiserate. Okay, I'm going to take his side in this, right? And they would tell him how terrible those people were, right? And, you know, and that sounds good, but it's really decidedly unhelpful, because what it does is it cripples him, you know, and he can't forgive. And forgiveness is the key. Forgiveness is the way out, but forgiveness isn't condoning it. It's not excusing it. If it wasn't a sin, you wouldn't have to forgive it, right? In fact, forgiveness really acknowledges that that was something terrible and it needs to be conquered and we need to get it free. And the reason to do that is that, honestly, those things come between us. They teach us not to trust, to hold back. It keeps a part of our heart hardened. And so it's for Ronnie's sake that I forgive. You know, my dad for not being the dad I wanted, you know, or anyone who has hurt me, so that it doesn't interfere here with my ability to be wholehearted in giving myself to Ronnie.
Often men and women carry these injuries from childhood into their adulthood and their whole life long. They never really deal with them. Often they have a very good relationship with their parents, and so they assume that, well, that's in the past and it's not affecting me in the future. And yet hurts from childhood can, with our fathers and with our mothers, can affect our behavior in the present, in the future, with each other as husband and wife. Even little things like male chauvinism, where the girls didn't feel respected, you know, or they were second-class citizens or whatever. Then, as an adult, that wife or woman might insist on being listened to and be, you know, overly insistent that her views get heard and that she be respected. So the only way, as Kathy was saying, the only way to deal with these injuries, whether you're aware of them or not, is to forgive our parents, our moms and our dads, for whatever happened. We may be very much aware of a specific injury that we suffered, and we can forgive it. we can forgive it, and when we forgive that injury, it can change our behavior in the way we interact with each other as husband and wife, the way we interact with our children as well.
It's very important, though, to clarify language, okay? Because a real problem is that we use this word forgiveness when we mean reconciliation, and we're not talking about reconciliation. Reconciliation is appropriate in a safe, belonging relationship, committed, belonging relationship between two autonomous, healthy adults. And what happens in reconciliation is that we restore the trust, okay? We ask and grant forgiveness in such a way that now we're going to trust each other again and be vulnerable to each other again. Some people are not trustworthy, okay? Some relationships are not safe, okay? So you cannot reconcile with them, but you can forgive them. And so you don't forgive them for their sake. They don't even have to know it. They could be dead. Right? You forgive them to be free of the pain and the impact of what they did on you, so that you could be full yourself again, right? And so it is a conscious choice. It's not a feeling. You don't have to feel forgiving. I mean, look at the crucifix. I don't think he felt warm and fuzzy, right? When he was saying, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing, right? So you kind of ask God to help you, because it's really not human to forgive. It's very divine. But once you link with that forgiveness, you choose it. And just with your will, you conquer it, you forgive it, but then you also have to let it go. And you do have to let that person go. And I think the key for me has been, and I've had to do this in my own life, is to then change the way I love that person. No longer are we going to be in an intimate love relationship where I'm going to expect that he's going to consider me or she's going to be kind to me. I've just accepted they're not capable, they're broken. But I could love benevolently, kind of like Mother Teresa, loves the leper, in the gutter. Cheerfully I can give what I want to give, and they don't have to say thank you. They don't have to, and then I get to be who I want to be. Now, this was actually an experience from my life with my dad, and it was tremendous. When I did forgive him, he was living with us, and I don't know if I ever told you this, but in the last 14 years of his life, he lived with us, and he was a very demanding man. He was CEO of a big corporation, and at one point I had to forgive him, and when I did, I really flipped a switch. And decided I would be the daughter I wanted to be. And I could lavish affection on him, spoil him rotten, and it didn't matter how he behaved. He didn't have to be pleased. He didn't have to appreciate it or not appreciate it. It didn't matter. His response didn't matter. And it was wonderful. We had the best 5 years after that.